The harmattan wind, dry and insistent, whipped through the bustling marketplace of Alife, carrying with it the scent of roasting ground nuts and the rhythmic chanting of traders. It was a day much like any other, except for the strange stillness that seemed to hang in the air around Aya Abani's store. Aya Abani, her face a roadmap of wisdom and years, was not your average market vendor. She wasn't selling yams or pepper. Instead, she offered woven cloths, each one a tapestry of intricate patterns and vibrant colors. But these were no ordinary cloths. They were said to whisper stories to those who knew how to listen. A young man named Adibeo, no more than 20 with eyes that sparkled with curiosity, approached her store. He was a farmer's son, more accustomed to the feel of soil than the soft touch of cloth. He watched, fascinated, as Aya Abani's nimble fingers flew over her loom, the threads dancing like fireflies in the dim light of her store. He had heard whispers of her magical cloths, tales that had been passed down through generations, about how they held secrets of the past and prophecies of the future. He tugged his brown Ankara shirt, nervousness creeping into his heart like the evening shadows. Aya Abani, he began, his voice a little hesitant, I have heard things about your clothes. Aya Abani, her gaze sharp as a hawk's, paused, her hand still over the loom. Her eyes, though aged, held a vibrant intelligence that made Adibeo's breath catch. And what things have you heard, young one? She asked, her voice like the gentle rumble of distant thunder. That they can speak, Adibeo said, his voice dropping to a whisper. A small smile played at the corners of Aya Abani's lips. Indeed. They speak, but not to the ears. They speak to the heart, to the soul. Adibeo's curiosity was piqued, and that was the start of his journey. Adibeo wasn't looking for anything specific, not initially. He was simply drawn by the allure of the unknown, by the promise of stories hidden within the threads. He spent days at Aya Abani's store, watching her weave, listening to the rhythmic click-clack of the loom, and slowly, she began to teach him. She showed him how the patterns were not just decorative. They were codes, a language passed down through their ancestors. He learned about the Adaya patterns, each one representing a different element of their history, from the symbols of royalty to the signs of nature. Then one day, Aya Abani showed him a cloth unlike any he had seen before. It was woven with deep indigo and shimmering gold threads and depicted a towering baobab tree, its branches reaching towards the heavens, its roots grasping deep into the earth. He had seen baobabs before, majestic and ancient, but this one seemed different, almost alive. This is the cloth of the baobab, Aya Abani said, her voice low and serious. It holds the secret of the wellspring. Adibeo frowned. Wellspring, he asked, not understanding what she meant. The market crowd went about their business around them, unaware of the importance of the conversation. The smell of fried plantain filled the air as men called to each other to buy their ware. Our land has been dry, Adibeo, she explained, her voice laced with sadness. The rivers have been reduced to trickles and the farms refuse to yield. The elders say there is a wellspring that has been hidden and they believe it can restore our land. She looked at Adebayo with a mix of hope and caution. They also say that the baobab tree holds the key, and that is the true secret it holds. Adebayo was confused. He knew that the elders were wise, but this sounded like a story, an old myth, and that made him wonder if he had her right when she said the cloth held the secret. How can the cloth share such a secret? He asked, his mind racing. The cloth does not speak aloud, Adebayo. Touch it, feel it, then you will understand. Hesitantly, Adebayo reached out and touched the cloth. As his fingers brushed against the threads, he felt a jolt, like a surge of energy. Suddenly, images flooded his mind: vast plains, a river flowing powerfully, and a hidden cave nestled beneath the roots of the baobab tree woven into the cloth. He saw a vision of his ancestors, dancing and singing beneath a sky brimming with stars, their laughter echoing through the valleys. Yet he saw something in the distance, a dark figure shrouded in shadows. The vision ended as quickly as it began, and he stared at Aya Abani, his eyes wide with wonder and fear. "You saw?" she asked, her voice filled with a quiet knowing. Adebayo, still reeling from the experience, nodded. "I saw the river, the cave, and our ancestors." He paused, the memory of the shadowy figure still fresh in his mind. "But I also saw something else. Something dark." Aya Abani sighed. "The darkness, Adebayo. That is what protects the wellspring. It is the greed that lies within the hearts of men, and we must be careful. There are those who would seek the wellspring for their own selfish desires, to control its power, and that is why it was hidden." "What must I do?" Adebayo asked, his heart racing. "You must follow the cloth, Adebayo. It will guide you." She handed him the cloth of the baobab. "It will show you the path to the wellspring, but be warned, the path is not without its dangers." Adebayo clutched the cloth to his chest, a sense of purpose filling him. He knew he had to do this not just for his own people, but for the stories that the cloths held, the history of his ancestors to continue. Adebayo's journey began at dawn, just as the first rays of the sun were painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. He left Ilife, the cloth of the baobab his only guide. He followed the patterns on the cloth, each intricate detail leading him deeper into the heartland. The cloth shimmered as he walked, guiding him through fields of Guinea corn and across dusty plains. He passed by villages, the elders greeting him with knowing nods and the children calling out eager questions. He always answered respectfully. He learnt about the land he was from, its diverse tribes, and the stories the elders told him, each different from the other. He learned that every corner of the land was filled with tales that the cloths, like Aya Abani's, held to themselves. After several days, he came upon a group of farmers, their faces etched with despair. Their crops had withered, their wells were dry, and their hearts were thin. One of the men, old and frail, approached Adebayo. "Young man," he said, his voice raspy, "our lands have been cursed. The rain refuses to fall, and the earth has become barren." Adebayo recognized the despair in their eyes, the desperation that was like a mirror reflection of his own. He showed them the cloth of the baobab. "This cloth tells of a hidden wellspring," Adibeo told them. "I am going there to find it." The farmers looked at him with a mixture of hope and doubt. "Many have searched, young one, and none have returned." But Adibeo was not deterred. He held the cloth firm and continued his travels. The farmers he had met gave him strength. The path led him through a dense forest where the sun barely penetrated the canopy. The sounds of unseen creatures echoed around him, the rustling of leaves and the chirping of insects filling the air. He felt a pull, a sense of urgency as the baobab tree, the one depicted on the cloth, grew closer. Finally, he reached it, the baobab tree towering above all others, its massive trunk like a living monument. Its branches, gnarled and twisted, seemed to reach out like long arms, protecting the earth below. Adibeo, following the pattern on the cloth, found a small opening at the base of the tree, hidden beneath a tangle of roots. It was the entrance to the cave he had seen in his vision. He took a deep breath and made his way inside. The air was cool and damp, and the silence was heavy, broken only by the drip of water. As he went deeper, the walls of the cave began to glow, the stones reflecting the magical colors of his cloth. He could feel a powerful energy pulsating through the earth. The cave continued to lead into the depths of the earth, each turn of the path revealing new wonders. Finally, he reached a large chamber where, in the center, was a pool of water, shimmering with an ethereal glow. This was the wellspring. The water looked pure and alive, a stark contrast to the surrounding dryness. As he approached the pool, a voice echoed through the chamber, a deep, rumbling voice that seemed to come from the very stones themselves. "You have come far, Adibeo," the voice boomed. "But the wellspring is not for the taking. It is for the deserving, and to be deserved, you must pass a test." Adibeo looked around, trying to see where the voice was coming from. "What must I do?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "You must confront your own darkness, your own greed," the voice replied. Suddenly, the shadowy figure he had seen in his vision materialized before him, its eyes burning with malevolence. It was a manifestation of the darkness that lurked within the human heart, the desire for power and control. Adibeo knew what he had to do. He thought of the elders, the farmers, and the people of his land. He knew they depended on him. The battle began, not with fists or weapons, but with the power of will. The dark figure attacked, trying to fill Adibeo's mind with fear, with doubt, with the desire for power. It showed him images of himself, ruling over his land, the wellspring giving him absolute control. Adibeo fought back, not with anger, but with compassion and the love for his people. He held the cloth of the baobab in his hand, the patterns glowing brighter, acting as a shield. He focused on the images of his ancestors, their faces filled with joy and unity, and he remembered the stories that Aya Abani and the elders had told him. He understood now that the true power of the wellspring was not about control but about shared prosperity, and that was a power he wanted too. He closed his eyes and let the patterns of the cloth guide his heart, filling him with strength. Finally, with a surge of energy, he banished the dark figure, dissolving it into nothingness. He felt a sense of calm wash over him, a peace he had never experienced before. The voice returned, softer this time. You have passed the test, Adebayo. You have shown that you are not driven by greed but by a love for your people. The pool of water began to ripple, and a stream emerged, flowing out of the cave and into the dry earth. It was the wellspring at last. The water surged through the land, revitalizing the earth, the barren fields growing green once again. The sound of singing birds and the laughter of children filled the air. It was a sound he longed to hear. Adebayo watched, tears streaming down his face, his heart filled with joy. He knew that he had done what his people needed him to do and more. He had honored his ancestors and the stories they had shared. He left the cave and went back to the village that he visited earlier. The farmers greeted him as a man who was more than his word. They celebrated the bounty of nature that was at their feet. He then traveled back to Alife. When Adebayo returned, he found Aya Abani waiting for him. She looked at him, her eyes filled with pride. "You have done well, Adebayo," she said, her voice filled with warmth. "You have listened to the stories, and you have honored our ancestors." Adebayo handed the cloth back to Aya Abani, his journey complete. But he knew that his journey had just begun. He had been tasked with a great mission, to always remember the old ways and tell the stories of his people. From that day on, Adebayo became known as the guardian of the wellspring. He continued to walk the land, sharing the wisdom of the cloths and the stories of his ancestors. He taught the young ones about the importance of compassion, unity, and the power of shared prosperity. The story of the Weaver of Whispers and the Baobab's secret was told throughout the land, passed down through generations, reminding everyone of the importance of their history and the wisdom of their elders. The cloth of the baobab became a symbol of hope and a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the light of truth and love will always find a way to rise. And that is how the wellspring was revealed and why it must always be protected. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more tales from the heart of Africa. And don't forget to share this video with your friends so that they too can learn about the Weaver of Whispers and the Baobab's secret and the history it holds. Thanks for watching.